Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn back at Matchroom, the palatial estate, the rolling hills. We even saw you take a couple of kicks there at the net. I think you've got something on this weekend.
For my sins,
doing a little practice. Yeah. And it's been so long since I've seen you over the last 3 weeks. I thought I'd come out to your house and track you down. But before we get to the last couple of weeks, there's some news on the wire. Obviously, we were looking forward to Boots Ennis. And with his competition falling out, what are we looking at as an opponent for him? Is that fight still on? That card still on?
Yeah. We'll announce in the next 24 hours. That was a mandatory with the IBF, so we'll go down the IBF rankings. All I'll tell you at the moment is if you look at the IBF rankings, it'll be someone in the top 15. And we're negotiating with 3 or 4 of those guys now, and we expect that fight to be made in the next 24 hours.
I know you've had your experience with fights falling out last second. Is it a practice to have somebody getting ready kind of in the wings just in case?
Not really, but, we've got enough time. We're 6 weeks out, so it's not like you're getting a last-minute replacement. Most people are in training camp anyway. A lot of people have got fights scheduled. We got criticism about the Cody Crawley fight, but he was a mandatory, so, and he was a good guy. He was an undefeated guy. When I look at the names in the top 15, they're all kind of like for like, in all honesty. Like, they're all of a similar level. So the fight won't be any worse in terms of its competitiveness, but we'll make sure that's announced later on today.
Last on that, we don't want anyone to be injured or not to be able to perform if they have the opportunity. But based on what you said, are you a bit happy that you're able at least to now to handpick the opponent as opposed to be forced into the mandatory?
No, honestly, with Boots, he'll fight anyone. Like, even last night, I said, look, we're going to go down the rankings. He went, just let me know who it is. It wasn't like, oh, don't pick him, or I don't like that style. It was just like, yeah, whatever. So let me know. Now,
of course, we're on the heels of 5v5. Everybody's still talking about it more than I would have expected, to be fair. When something like that happens, Frank's got this clean sweep, but it's still a promotion game. A fighter has fallen out. Anthony Yarde, maybe jumped team at the last second and at the wrong time. He could have been on the 5v5, went inside, but you're still in the promoter game, being that he's freed up. He's a free agent. Is that a conversation you're having?
No, I've not spoken to Anthony Yarde. I mean, Queensberry have made it quite clear that Yarde is still under contract with them. Yarde has said he's not. It's a messy game in that situation. I think probably and previously we would have maybe gone after Yarde because of the rivalry between Matchroom and Queensberry. But when we have the relationship that we have now and they tell us that he's under contract, we're not going to go anywhere near him. And hopefully they can work it all out because it looks like a mess at the moment.
If he were free, is that a fighter you're interested in?
It all depends on the fights that can get made. I mean, the only fight of interest, Callum Smith's kind of future is undecided. So the only fight for Yarde really is Boatsy at the moment. Like, in time, next year sometime, could be Bivol, could be Beterbiev again, who knows? But right now, if I can't make Boatsy against Yarde, I don't know, and Callum Smith's getting married and, enjoying himself, I don't want to sign a fighter and then not be able to deliver. So, but it's irrelevant anyway because it's not someone that we're looking at.
Well, you could just stick him on the 5v5 rematch and really stick it to Frank.
Yeah. Well, no. I think, hopefully those guys can work it out, and obviously there's a contractual dispute. We'll leave them to it.
I'm winding up a little bit about sticking them on the 5v5, but I like to make fights. You're aware of this.
We got to win the next one. We lost. It was 60-1 or something. The accumulator of what happened. Exactly. So, but it was. I think the response of the event and the numbers of the event definitely softened the blow of defeat. It was amazing, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the next one. But we would have liked to have won.
The one I was trying to get together was Joshua Wilder. We still wanted to see it, especially in America. And I was thinking, Eddie will be the promoter of both. I had the whole table set. Were you surprised at how Wilder was beaten? He never seemed to be in the fight really.
No, I mean, you knew really in the first round that we all hoped that Wilder would bounce back. We hoped that he would be the old Deontay Wilder, and the defeat from Parker was a one-off. But you saw very quickly in the fight it wasn't. He didn't look confident. Every time he got backed up, which was a lot, he didn't let his right hand go. Even when he did let his right hand go. It didn't look like it had the kind of same zip that he once had. And he doesn't look like the same fighter, in all honesty. And I'm disappointed for him because I know the work that he put in, and I know what it's like to see a fighter try so hard and for it not to come together on the night. Look, AJ, you saw that against Usyk in the second fight. That was kind of like the same thing. He put so much of his life into that fight, and he just didn't perform like he felt he could have. And it's heartbreaking because, that wasn't that AJ was just not the same fighter. He just lost his way. Whereas Wilder, I think, is potentially not the same fighter. And that's something, obviously, he has to consider now moving forward.
If he decided to move forward, you're his last promoter, would you entertain continuing to promote him?
Wilder?
Yeah.
Wilder can carry on, but not at the level that he's fighting at now. And I think that won't be appealing to him. He's had an amazing career. He's been a huge asset to the sport. He's made a lot of money. Maybe it's time. But that's an individual decision that it's not for me to say. Wilder can beat 99% of heavyweights out there, but he can't beat the 1% anymore. Do you know what I mean?
He's fallen out of the top 10
yes,
by...
exactly. So
do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, he's lost to 2 top 5, top 6, top 7 guys. But, you have to ask yourself, what level do you want to fight at and for how much money? And as I say, he can carry on for a couple of years, but he beats mostly everybody, but not the top 10 right now. And he don't want to be outside of the top 10. He's not going to want to go through camp for $1 million and, have a warm-up fight, is he? He's just, maybe it's time.
What you said about Joshua's trajectory, what we're looking at Wilder right now, even Beterbiev and Bivol, it's a testament to how difficult Undisputed is. There was a time when Joshua Wilder was the most anticipated fight since Pacquiao Mayweather. We're talking $100 million plus was on the table. Sometimes they say it is, sometimes you say it isn't, but it looked like that's something that was going to happen. Do you regret that fight will likely never be made?
Not really. I don't really regret it. I wish it would have, but I don't sit there at night. If the landscape of boxing was as it is now, the fight would have got made in a day, right? But, at the time, there was a lot of people that I felt didn't actually want the fight. There was a lot of people trying to not cause trouble, but just the spirit of the deal wasn't quite there as it is now. Don't forget, we've already signed to fight Wilder a year ago, and obviously he lost. And then we couldn't make the fight. And then we agreed to fight Wilder again now for Wembley in September. And he lost against Zhang. So maybe it just wasn't meant to be. But, there's no point looking back on things. It didn't happen. And, we got some great fights instead. But, yeah, it would have been nice to have seen that fight.
Looking forward, do you fear the same potential outcome for Joshua Fury?
I think that fight will happen. I think whether Fury wins or loses to Usyk, it's still probably the biggest fight it is the biggest fight in the division, but it's just the size of it. Like, if Fury wins the rematch, Fury AJ for Undisputed is bigger than it's ever been. If he loses to Usyk, it's still a monster fight, but not quite as big as it could have been. But, you can't just keep looking for the perfect spot all the time. As long as we get that fight, wherever stage both guys are at, is where they're at.
You said there's no regrets, but if there was something you could have done differently reflecting, going forward with Fury, who's also cagey, a difficult guy to make a fight with, it seemed like you had it made once before. It almost sounds like the same story with Wilder. Is there anything you approached that fight potential differently than the way it unfolded with Wilder?
Not really the Fury negotiations. I think with the Wilder negotiations, I think maybe I was a little bit immature at the time, probably rubbed a few people up the wrong way. But I spoke out, against untruths that I felt at the time as well. And I think with the Fury stuff, not really. Like, we had that fight signed. We signed to fight Fury. And then obviously he had the legal incident with Wilder, meant that he couldn't take the fight. But definitely the relationship now with Frank, and obviously the influence of His Excellency, both of those fights would have got made as things are now. But obviously they weren't.
And we do have to reflect a little bit on 5v5 since everyone's discussing it. You were at the press conference before 5v5. Like, I will be an absolute knob if I win this thing. And Frank said the same. I talked to Frank yesterday. He's incredibly magnanimous. Even off camera, I'm shocked at how little jabs he's taken at you. Were you surprised by this?
But look, obviously the Queensbury team, there's a lot more jibes, and rightfully so, by the way. But we're also kind of, it's work. Like after that show, we were at His Excellency's house, 6 o'clock in the morning for 2 hours. We went straight to the airport together. We're talking about fights. We're building fights together. I think we're also conscious that one bad interview or one thing that pisses someone off kind of starts to ruin all the hard work that we've done. And honestly, if I would have won, I wouldn't have been goading Frank Warren. I would have been wallowing in the victory, but not like, ha, Frank. You know, it would have just been fucking yes, like he did. But it wasn't like, take that. You know, we got work to do. The concept was incredible. The strides that we've taken in the sport are incredible. So not the time to piss each other off because we're doing a lot of business together.
To that point, you know, I miss it. I was really the one saying everybody should work together. I was the guy, but now that I can't just say Frank's name and get you going, it's a little annoying.
You know, it's like, on one hand, you guys should have worked together for ages. Now it's like, oh, you guys are a bit friendly.
Yeah,
it's like,
too friendly.
Hell, you know,
it's an easy headline every time. But
you know, we're enjoying it and we love boxing and we're having the opportunity to make fights together and boxing's in a better place than it's ever been.
What did you learn about Frank finally having to get to know him, work with him, that you didn't know before, like that you thought he was a different kind of guy?
Probably the families are probably quite similar, you know, in a way. Like, both come from the same kind of backgrounds, Frank and my dad. Both have sons that work for the company. Both, you know, they're both very family orientated, working class, but you know, like love boxing, so not too dissimilar as people. And obviously I get on very well with George, you know, and yeah, we're enjoying it. You know, I think we're probably enjoying our jobs now more than we've ever enjoyed them. So we're happy.
What did Barry say to you once this thing was done?
He stopped texting me after about the third fight. I think he'd just given up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, he was disappointed. He wanted to win as well. But he's pleased that, you know, everybody's having fun, everybody's making money, and the opportunities for the fighters are, you know, more than they've ever been before.
And lastly, looking forward to this rematch, which apparently is already in the works. Both of you are saying the same. We made a metric at Jabber. I don't know if you've seen the Jabber stats for all the fights individually, but look, the stats for you two as a team, look at that. This is your collective fighters, right? All the fighters aggregated into one stat, which makes your side, right? The fight card, even though it was 10-0, was a lot closer when you aggregate all the fighters into one composite.
Yeah.
So the rematch.
Does that change anything? Can we change the points?
Well, I think going forward.
Fascinating, though. But that is how competitive the fights were. And we didn't it wasn't that we put forward our best pound for pound fighters. We put forward the fighters that we felt against his fighters, specific fighters, would be 50-50 matchups. And that's the essence of the tournament. It wasn't like, let's put in Canelo and Andy Cruz and Boots Ennis. And it was like, what's the weight? That's a great fight. Ray Ford against Nick Ball. That's a 50-50 matchup. Let's make that one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he would have put his very best against some of ours, he would have been a massive favourite. If we would have done the same. And it was like 50-1 or whatever for the result. So it was a weird scoreline, but congratulations.
Is there a beautiful matchup that you're considering for the rematch, like one that gets you going?
I mean, could be Joshua Dubois. You know, who knows? But there's so many great fights to be made.
I know I've got to let you run. I can't let you go, though, without talking a little bit Joshua Dubois. And Dubois, if he is the IBF interim champion, which he has become, is that fight essentially done?
No, look, we haven't decided who we're fighting next. We'll talk to AJ and His Excellency. The fight will be announced on the 26th of June. If the fight with Dubois is for a world title, that's likely to be the fight. If not, then it will probably be someone else. Could be Zhang, could be Parker. No decisions made yet.
What was AJ saying ringside while that fight was unfolding?
Fuck everybody up. He's ready to beat anybody, and he will beat anybody in the division.
Can't wait to see it. Radio Rahim with Eddie Hearn.